Lindsay Booker. I'm here from Echoing Green, and I really want to thank you all for coming. I know it was a rainy day today, so appreciate you being here. So welcome to EPSART. This is a discussion series featuring social change leaders from Echoing Green's community in conversations that explore the many intersections of their transformative work. So tonight's event is our first time presenting this in partnership with Be Social Change. We are so excited. Thank you so much to Marcos. Also had support from Michelle and the incredible volunteers tonight, so thank you so much. So we also wanted to thank our friends here at the Alley for hosting us in this awesome space. So thank you to Russell and Dominique. Thank you to Amira. And last but not least, thank you so much to my colleagues from Echoing Green, especially Kara, Maggie, Jana. So before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about Echoing Green. So Echoing Green, for 30 years now, has accelerated talent that will change the world for the better. So through our fellowship program and our other leadership development programs, we spot emerging leaders and invest deeply in their success to accelerate their impact. So we have an unparalleled community of fellows, and it includes the founders of Public Allies, Teach for America, One Acre Fund, Kitchen. So we are proud, to date to have provided seed funding and leadership development support to over 700 fellows since 1987. So watch out for the announcement of our 2017 class, June 8th. So that's Echoing Green. So I'm now excited to transition to tonight. I get to introduce this evening's speakers. So Echoing Green Fellow Tanyella Evans is the co-founder of Library for All, which she and her co-founder Rebecca McDonald, who is also an Echoing Green Fellow, started nearly 5 years ago? 3.5? Yeah. 5-ish. So with a mission to make knowledge accessible to all, Library for All has built a cloud-based digital library platform for people who lack access to locally relevant books. Their platform is used in many countries, including Haiti, Rwanda, DRC, and Cambodia. But there's much more to come on that story. So after she shares a little bit more about herself and Library for All, Tanyella will be joined in conversation this evening by Amy Lieberman, who is an award-winning journalist at Devex based here in New York City. Her coverage on politics, social justice, development, and climate change has appeared in a variety of international news outlets, including The Guardian, Slate, and The Atlantic. She has reported from the UN headquarters and 9 countries outside of the US. I'm making this a very development conversation tonight, including Cambodia, Colombia, and Nepal. So throughout tonight's event, please think about questions you have, topics you want to explore with our guests tonight. We're going to open up the floor for Q&A after Tanyella gives a presentation and we have a conversation, and then we'll do some more networking. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanyella.
Is this thing on? Yes. Perfect. All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this evening. I guess I want to start by just acknowledging my team. Can they please stand up? Tanja Isabel, where's Catherine? Catherine's at the back. Yes, we're an awesome women-led technology and development team, and we're actually just around the corner on 25th Street. But our journey, we're actually one of the first companies in the Alley, not in the beautiful space that you see right here, but they had another space when they first started out. And Alley was an amazing catalyst for us, and so just really happy to be back here and feel at home right here. So what I really want to do tonight is just really get into a conversation about the work that we do and how all of us in this community can think about our work in the context in the context of broader social change. So one of the things I've been really thinking about a lot recently is the difference between social entrepreneurship, which has become this really cool, sexy idea of kind of, entrepreneurship, business kind of principles applied to social change. And on the other hand, systems entrepreneurship, and really thinking about how our work is embedded in a much broader context, and how we, as those who want to have an impact in the world, how we can benefit also from seeing our work through that perspective. And I really, you know, I'm definitely not an expert on this. I'm grappling with this topic myself, and I hope we can have a bit of a conversation about how you guys see, you know, us, how this affects you, and I guess how we can talk more about social impact in those terms, because I think it's way more interesting personally. But Simon Sinek says we should start with the why, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I do this work. On the right here, I guess your left is actually, and I'm kind of like standing in front of this, I guess I'll stand up. This is actually my granddad. My granddad grew up essentially in extreme poverty. He grew up in Jamaica, and he had 9 sisters, and they grew up in a little 2-bedroom house in the hills in Jamaica. And when he was about 20 years old, he came to the UK, fell in love with my grandmother, and really started this amazing journey of becoming a teacher in the UK, a very well-respected teacher. And I'm really close to my grandparents. They live in Jamaica, and instilled in me just that love of learning. And that's something that hasn't really left me, and something that I'm still really passionate about. And this idea that education and learning can open up a whole world of opportunity and really change just your perspective in a day. And I used to always love to read. It's still something that I really love. And just the way that your mind can be changed by a book is something that's always stayed with me. So I was always passionate about education. When I was 17, I had the great opportunity to go and volunteer for a year in Uganda at a school. And much later on, I found myself heading up a small foundation in Haiti. This was about a year after the earthquake, and the foundation I was working with, we were focused on building free high school. You know, it was a really amazing time, but I remember really clearly, so we were about halfway through the project of building this school, and we laid the plans for the school for about 900 children. And I remember we took enrollment one day, and 4,000 children showed up for enrollment in the school. It was just one of those moments where, you know, it really made me think about the work that I was doing and the impact I was having. And I thought I could spend my whole life building schools, and building schools is extremely important. But for me, I thought, what can I do that, you know, can have a bigger impact on this huge challenge that, you know, as we know now, 250 million children not learning the basics of how to read and write. So we finished the project. What we ended up doing actually, so we changed the plans. We ended up having school in the morning and school in the evening. But a few years later, I met my co-founder, Rebecca, who was also living and working in Haiti. And she had this idea that you could harness the power of telecommunications to make ebooks available to people on devices they already have. And this wasn't really a new idea. I mean, other people were doing that. But she was really inspired by seeing in Haiti that, you know, people had 3G on their phones, and that there were, you know, the Vietnamese were investing in fiber optics across the country. And she thought, wow, this is really incredible that this infrastructure is there, and is there a way that we could use that infrastructure? Seeing school after school that didn't have access to books and didn't have access to knowledge. And we met here in New York. I say it was the most expensive lunch of my life, because I left my job soon after that. But you know, we started doing research and seeing that there's huge potential. We still believe there's a huge opportunity to make knowledge accessible to people on devices that they already have. There are currently 6 billion mobile phone subscribers across the developing world. I'm sure many of you know this if you've traveled in India or in parts of Africa. You see that people have mobile phones, people have access to technology. Many governments are investing in tablet programs as a way to really accelerate education and leapfrog building of lots of physical infrastructure. So I'm going to talk about how, obviously, this is not a silver bullet. We see ourselves as part of the solution, but I'll just share with you a little bit exactly about what we do. So this is the challenge we're looking at. That 250 million children are not learning the basics of how to read and write. And as an international community, we've done a great job of getting children into school. Enrollment rates are now over 90% in many schools across the developing world. But what we're not doing well is actually teaching children anything. Children are leaving after 4 years at school without learning the basics. And there was a recent report in 2015 that showed that one of the reasons for this is that children are not learning in their local language. Sounds really obvious, right? I mean, if you're in Haiti, you're speaking Haitian Creole at home, you're speaking it in the playground, and you go into the classroom and you're speaking French as a 5-year-old girl. I mean, how are you supposed to keep up? And the research shows now that if children learn in their mother tongue from kindergarten to 3rd grade, they're much more likely to gain literacy in English or French. There was a really amazing UNESCO report that we can share with you that is really powerful in terms of what are the key interventions. Obviously, high quality. My fellow Equine Green Fellows is running Teach for Haiti and doing remarkable work in that space. But one of the other really key cost-effective interventions is early grade readers in mother tongue languages. So at Library for All, our big mission is to make knowledge accessible to all equally. That's the vision that we're working towards. And what we've done is built a digital library platform that makes knowledge accessible to people on devices they already have. So we don't give out mobile phones, we don't give out computers or tablets. We find partners, we work with NGOs, with governments who have device programs, and we bring the content and we bring the app, the technology itself. We found ourselves in the app building world because what we realized is that most of the applications that are available when we started this 3.5 years ago weren't actually designed for low bandwidth environments, weren't designed for offline. And many of them also didn't have digital rights management, which meant that you could only have open source content available on there. And we all know open source content is great, but some of the best content out there is actually published by local publishers or international publishers. So we started on building this technology platform that would enable us to have content from a range of different sources. So an example of how we work, one of our longtime partners in Haiti is a group called Devex Freedom, and they work with basically child slaves. It's a practice that still continues in Haiti today, where children are often kept as the houseboy or the house girl, and they're expected to do all the housework and not go to school. And they help and educate communities and provide funding so children can go to school. And then they have to accelerate that learning of these children. They've been out of school for a long time. And they found that access to Library for All, we have several hundred books now in Haitian Creole as well as English and French, not only helps children improve on standardized tests, but also gives them confidence. When you actually can see yourself as the protagonist of the story, it really can be so powerful in terms of building identity. The unintended byproduct of books that are relevant to you and written for you. So our current program, so we currently work in 5 countries. We are in Haiti, in Rwanda, DRC, Mongolia, Cambodia. So very random, it might seem, but basically we partner with organizations. So except for Haiti, where we have a local team of 3, in the other countries we don't have any local staff. We work in partnership with organizations that are already there. So in the early years, basically organizations came to us, whether it was a school, the Asia Foundation, a government, the government of Rwanda came and asked us to bring the program there. And basically what we've done is we have a school model. So schools will purchase tablet devices, and they might already have them, and then we'll curate a library of content for those schools. So we work with about 50 schools now. And we mentioned the number of publishers there as well, because a key part of our work is working with local publishers and digitizing their content in the mother tongue and making it available in the library. And we actually pay the local publishers, so we negotiate a license fee for their content. And that is by far the most popular content on the library. So our goals this year, I just wanted to share with you. So we actually are moving away from or I shouldn't say moving away, we're supplementing our school model, and we're actually going to be scaling up and releasing Library for All on the Google Play Store nationally. So we're going to try, obviously it's great that people actually make Library for All accessible to people on their mobile phones as well. So we've negotiated the rights to content so that we can do that. So we'll be doing that in Rwanda this year to the library at a national level. Secondly, we started to, so this is our program in Rwanda. Secondly, one of the findings from our pilot in Cambodia was that children read through all of the content on the library in about 10 weeks. We had 50 books in Khmer. And so the kids were just voracious in reading. We were wondering why the numbers were dropping off. And we called up our partners, is there something wrong with the tech? What's going on? They just read through everything. So we started to realize that we really need to think about our content creation model and find a way to scale that, because there was no more content to buy in Cambodia. So we started to think about how we could actually create content at the community level. Could we run writer workshops to create this content in Haitian Creole? USAID gave us some funding in Q1 this year, and we've created over 100 books in Haitian Creole, and we're going to be creating another 100 at the end of this month. These are really high-quality, leveled readers, leveled to the curriculum, and we can talk more about that as well. But that's a really exciting part of our work. And then the third part is boring. It's about scaling, like our revenue model, but I guess we can talk more about that as well. But I guess I just wanted to also share with you that, you know, part of our thinking in moving forward is how Library for All can help to shift the system that we're working in. So we see our work within the context of the global supply chain of content. We're part of the Global Book Alliance, which is a group of organizations working in this space to think about this huge challenge that we know that children need access to content in their local language, yet there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these mother tongue languages, and it's very challenging to think how we can scale. The resources available are very limited, so how can we actually reach that need? How can we increase the production of content in local languages and increase the distribution? So one of the things that we're thinking about is how we can, as a community, scale our writer workshop model, make sure that all of the content created in these writer workshops is Creative Commons licensed, make sure it's discoverable, and make sure that there is a platform that will enable a delivery of that in digital or in print. So, you know, that's some of the ways that I think Library for All, and what we're really excited about, is not only raising the profile of our work and talking about mother tongue content and distribution of books digitally to people, but also thinking about how we can play a role in our whole sector in increasing the supply of books that children really need to learn. So I guess I'll leave it there, and we can have a chat about whatever you want.
I'll go ahead and invite Amy up on stage-ish, for the conversation. And I'll just ask everyone to hold questions till the end. There definitely will be time that we will open it up to the audience, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm okay. A little, yeah. Yes. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, good.
Good. Great to be here with you.
Thanks.
Okay, I have many questions for you, and I'm sure everyone else does too. I guess just to start, I was thinking a little bit as you were talking about how, I mean, obviously there's a great need for what you're doing, and there's a real way for you to just tap into the networks that you're working with. So why do you think it took so long for someone to really navigate this idea and implement it and just make it happen?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, you know, like I said at the beginning, we're not the only ones to think about building a digital library collection. But when we started this 3.5 years ago, we found that most of the solutions were tied to a device. So, for example, giving out Kindles in the developing world, or the one laptop per child model, which, you know, had questionable results. And we noticed that the key there was not to give out the devices, but actually to create a platform that would be device agnostic, because the market's taking care of devices. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal to see whole new categories emerging in East Africa. You know, we think of smartphones and you think of Apple and Android, you know, Samsung and Apple, but there are these whole, Nokia has huge market share. There's a whole category of feature phones, which is kind of between a smartphone and a basic dumb phone. $30 to $50, you can get a really good quality phone where you can access the internet. So how do you design for these devices? How do you design in terms of tech from offline first thinking? And one of the first barriers that we really came against was the fact that publishers in the US and in the UK and Europe want to be sure that their books are protected, right? Because the first thing we thought is, well, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just get all of Pearson's educational content in English and make it available in Haiti, as well as the content in mother tongue languages? But these major publishers are concerned that their content's going to end up on the internet, it's going to end up pirated. And so we had to think about partnering with Adobe and Sony to actually design a digital rights management system. And that's still something we're grappling with, is how to make this content available.
Right, so then you have to go, I guess, both to the partners to say, we want to make this happen, can you help us? To the publishers, right? And then you also, kind of what you were saying there, how do you make this approachable on the other end to your audience, to your kids? How old are these kids also, by the way?
Yeah, the Kids Summer Program, I mean, really ranges. Again, mainly early grade level, anywhere from kindergarten to 4th grade. In some of our programs it goes slightly older than that, as well, as children are trying to catch up. But yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things we've really learned as well, is that to do this kind of work, I mean, and to bring the right partners to the table and to really do that innovation, it takes time.
Yeah.
And it's not that sexy, and it's not that, you know, I don't know what the word is, but it's really difficult. And I think that's why it's amazing to have organizations like Echoing Green that really get behind these ideas in the early stages. Without Echoing Green, it would have been really hard to even think about spending the time on this. And you know, that really makes a difference for early stage entrepreneurs like us who see a gap and want to fill it, but know that it's going to take a lot of time and energy and resources.
And you were also, I hope it's okay to say this, you mentioned to me before that when you go into countries, you tend to have a network in there as well. That must, I'm guessing that helps you as you move along.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, you know, a key part of our work is building capacity locally. A key part of our work is building capacity locally, so making sure that the Ministry of Education invites us. In Rwanda, you know, that was very important that we align with the government's strategic plan. We don't find ourselves out here 3 years into this without really being aligned with the government. In Haiti, it's a little bit different. There's not the same political stability, but then, you know, we really look to civil society and see how we can partner from the beginning.
As the conversations are not necessarily very sexy, they're happening, they're progressing, and they're more or less receptive to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on the partner side, I should say, in the countries that we're working with, we have so much demand for Library for All. I mean, we have a huge list of schools and countries. Tanya can talk about this. I would say every week another partner, another country. Last week it was Egypt and Jordan. We've had a lot of requests to get involved in refugee scenarios, and these are all things that we're setting up our model to do really well, setting up the content and the technology that we need to scale. So we have no shortage of partners. What we're trying to think about is how to ensure that it's sustainable from a funding standpoint, and also ensure that we have the tech support that we need to scale as well.
You rely mostly on individual donations, almost exclusively, right?
Actually, to date, it's been mainly grants.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been the biggest part of our funding to date. So Bloomberg Philanthropies, Knight Foundation has given us a big grant, and that's it's a blessing and a curse, because you kind of end up relying on these grants. But it's been a good way for us to. I think grants are really helpful in terms of kind of risk capital at the beginning, especially if you find the right funding partners.
Right. Okay, so just shifting gears here a little bit, I was really interested in what the experience is like for kids as they use this, just enjoying the pictures of the kids. You seem really immersed in Library for All. How are you designing it for them to actually use it? Is the point that they go into it and it's like they have a curriculum sort of laid out for them, so they're reading just educational materials, or do you want them to be reading for pleasure when they go into it? And just considering their backgrounds, are they coming from homes where reading is a part of the daily habit necessarily, or what are you finding? How are you tracking this?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the awesome things in our programs is that there's just such a desire for knowledge and for reading. I remember this from when I was teaching in Uganda, and the kids that I was working with, they would walk miles to come to school every day. And they would, they were so eager to learn that they would beg me for homework. So we see just amazing desire to use the library. We see ourselves as a partner, so we're not dictating how the library is used in the classroom. We're definitely not implementation or teacher training experts. So what we seek to do is find a partner that is working in the community and needs access to books, and ask them what kind of content they need and what is going to be most helpful for them in teaching children. I mean, teachers and parents are a huge stakeholder of ours, as well as the children. So finding content that aligns to the local curriculum is important. All of the content that we have on the library is also curated by a local advisory board in that country. So in Rwanda, it's the head of the curriculum board. In Haiti, it's it's led mainly by our Haitian country director, who's the former director of the Haitian National Library. So these are people who really know the content and what's helpful.
It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And do you find, because you have such a diverse range of countries, are there any similarities just from what they tell you that they need or they want more of?
Definitely mother tongue content.
Yeah.
It's by far the most popular. In Rwanda, it's been really interesting. I was just there 2 weeks ago, and we were doing some focus groups as we seek to make Library for All available not just to children in schools, but to everyone in the country. And we're really targeting especially young people, aged kind of 15 to 30. And as we were talking to them about what kind of content they want, it was entrepreneurship, leadership content. They want biographies, and they want it all in English, which is really cool as well. So I think as we go up the grades, we'll see that more and more.
It's great. So then at that point, will you go back out and try to find different publishers who can then deliver on that content? You'll kind of shift gears?
Yeah, so one of the things we're really excited about is we're just about to launch our partnership with the New York Public Library. It's a technology and a content partnership. So we're actually going to be combining our tech roadmap with theirs. They have a product. Is anyone who's a NYPL library member? Anyone? Cool. So you should download the Simply E app if you haven't already. You can borrow from New York Public Library all of their books digitally from their collection. So that project, Simply E, is an open source project, and we've been talking with them for a while about how we could adapt that to communities that we're working with and go offline first and low bandwidth. And so we built that partnership with them. We'll be spinning up our own instance of that and working with their tech team to actually build that out. So that will help us as well in terms of going to major publishers, because we're working with NYPL and it's a great brand and trusted brand. So that really helps. I mean, some of the majors, we haven't got any of the big six yet, but Abrams have come on board, and I'm really hopeful that we'll get some of the big textbook publishers. Now we're working with NYPL, have been much, much more open.
It's a good one to get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm not sure how we're doing on time here. Okay, I'll just ask you one more question before we turn to the audience. I mean, you mentioned that you're not an expert when it comes to social entrepreneurship, but I'm sure there are. Obviously, you're doing really well. I think with what you're doing, it's a great product. So for people who are interested in trying to take an idea, any idea that they might have, and just bring it to fruition, what would you say to them in terms of just mistakes that you made or things that you found to be helpful as you've gone along in the work that you're doing?
Great question. I could write such a long list of things that we've done wrong and would do differently, and I feel like we're in it, so that's why it's hard sometimes to reflect. But you know, I just encourage people to take the time to think about their work, what they want to do, the difference they want to make in the world, and think about the context overall. You know, I really think this idea of systems change, if we can think not only about, you know, the change we want to have and creating our organization, but think about how that plays within the whole context, and really take the time to learn about who are your competitors. I mean, we think of them as collaborators, really, but who's out there already? And what is different about what you're trying to do? I mean, think of it like a business, because honestly, I found, you know, charity is good, but it's not enough. We need to be really smart about the way we do social change. We need to do it together. We need to put our egos aside and think about, you know, how can we scale this? How can we accelerate this change together? How can we move all of the sector forward? So I just encourage social entrepreneurs to think in that way. And, you know, Echo and Green has great resources. We're going to start writing a little bit more about this as well, to really encourage people to think in that way. So that would probably be my final thought on that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, great. I see at least one question. Should we pass the mic around, or? You can have to stand up. Okay.
I'm just wondering, I mean, I know we always think of libraries as having free content, but given the situation in a lot of these countries where there isn't a government that's necessarily going to pay for library, why not, and also you want content, so why not do actual social entrepreneurship where maybe there's a subset that's free, especially if you're going to the adult level, and then there's a set that actually is, at least at first, you have to pay a tiny amount, and maybe when it gets to a certain amount, then the writer agrees that it can go into the free zone or something, some hybrid, because also then you're getting micro enterprises where people actually get to write in another tongue and they take their workshop or someone else's. Yeah. So maybe you've already considered that, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, you just described our freemium to premium model, which I'm so excited about. No, it's so great. You're absolutely right. And there's such an enabling environment. That's why we're testing this first in Rwanda. East Africa has a really established mobile money payment system. So people are already paying for their kids' school fees. They're paying, you know, for their utilities using their mobile phone. So it's actually, people are used to doing those kind of micro payments. So we're working on that model, and our model is to be completely sustainable within each country within 5 years. In Haiti, all of our schools are also paying for library for all. They pay $3 per student per year, so the cost of one book. And so once we have 30 schools now, once we have 100 schools, our local team will actually be self-sustaining, and we have a separate entity there. So that's totally our passion and vision is to, you know, to scale this in a way that's sustainable and that makes sense and that's kind of running on its own in each country. Yeah, thanks for the question, though.
Do you have any content geared towards U.S. students?
No, not right now. But NYPL has a great program for Charter 1 schools. It's called Open eBooks, and they've got $250 million worth of free books from the major publishers for Charter 1 schools, so check that out. Yeah, great question. So how culturally relevant is the content, and is the content coming from the schools themselves? Yes. So the writer workshops are run in country. In Haiti was our first experiment with that, and it was led by Françoise Thibault, who's our country director there, who's Haitian. She was the former director of the Haitian National Library. She has a huge passion for Haitian culture. So what the team did was they brought together 20 volunteers from the community who came and did a workshop for a week and were trained on how to use the software. This software is really cool. It's open source. Anyone can use it. It's called Bloom. And basically you put in the curriculum for the country. So we wrote the curriculum guide for Haiti. And then when I say we, I mean our local team. We didn't do anything. They wrote their curriculum guide, and then as the participants are writing, it actually kind of puts almost like a red line underneath if they've written a word that's too long for that grade level. So it enables relatively, you know, non-educators to write books that are going to help children that are level to the age at which they're reading or the level at which they're reading. And it's also machine learning software. So it's actually learning the language as you write these books. So it's been really amazing. I mean, Françoise is in our office this week, and she brought some of the books with her so we can share. She just printed them out. All the illustrations are done by local artists. And yeah, she was like in tears because she said they did a test at one of the schools that we're working with, and the kids, you know, they knew the name of the rivers. And they knew, you know, the name of those Haitian heroes. I mean, Haiti has such an incredible culture. This is the first, you know, free black nation. They have a newspaper in Haiti that's been around for 100 years that reported the moon landing from, you know, Haitian perspective. So such a rich culture. And for her as a library director, you know, and someone who's a librarian, just to be capturing that culture and sharing it back with the next generation of children. And we just really want to be an environment for that and be a platform for that to happen at Library for All. So it's one of the most exciting parts of our work, I think, is the content stuff. And I want to start selling it back as well. That's another thing I've been thinking about, is like, how can we make it available here in New York, right? That content that's coming from local authors, to your point about revenue. How could we actually, 'cause some of this content is really amazing, you know, and I think that there are 2 million Haitians living here in the US. I'm sure they'd love to read these stories to their kids. So we have to think about that as well. But yeah, I think that's a great question. So, and it's one that I grapple with all the time, you know, how to not be imposing a particular model on communities. I think one of the things that for me, you know, takes away that fear is the fact that we're not, you know, we're always invited, we're always asked, well, the content is approved locally and curated and sourced and even created locally. And so I don't feel like we're really playing that role. But Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stories. I remember our first pilot school that we were working with is the school just outside of Port-au-Prince called Respire, Haiti. And it's this beautiful school on top of a hill. And, you know, I remember we did a session with the kids in the class, and we'd probably been spending about an hour, and we were just allowing the kids to just read books themselves and just observing what content they liked, observing. We had a UX UI designer who was thinking about the design of the platform and how it might be easy for them to use, which was kind of a completely silly thing because they were teaching us how to use the app after like 5 minutes. But I remember at the end, this little boy Henry got up, put his hand up, and he just said, "Thank you so much for coming to my school and bringing Library for All here." And, you know, I think there's lots of moments like that where I think, you know, we feel that we're having that access, but we're having that success, but, you know, we're excited about getting data back as well, data like the data we got in Cambodia. We see this huge increase in reading, and we can see if children are reading on the platform or just browsing what they're searching for and not finding. You know, we're really trying to be as data-driven as we can about that.
I find that really fascinating how you're using this new device for graphic platform. But I was just looking it up, and only 63% of people actually have access to the smart phone. Yeah. I'm wondering how you feel about the other one-third of people who may not have access.
I'm actually amazed at 63% because it's pretty phenomenal. So I guess his question is, so he was saying, how do we serve, so only 63% of Haitians have access to a smartphone. How do we serve all of the rest of people in Haiti? And I was just saying that I think that's pretty phenomenal. You know, when we started working in Haiti in 2013, I don't know what the numbers were, but we didn't even think about a smartphone solution for Haiti because they weren't selling them. There was this tariff on smartphones, so it meant that they were out of reach for most people. It was this crazy tax. It was the only thing the government could really tax. And I noticed that last year, a new incomer to the Haitian market, a company called Blue, sold 750,000 smartphones last year alone, and they just started. So that's exactly what I mean by, and I'm the first to say Library for All is a forward, you know, we are looking to the future in terms of our solution. We might be a little bit ahead of the curve in some places, but we see that the market's going to solve this challenge of access to devices. There's actually a tablet manufacturing company in Haiti that is selling low-cost tablets, so. Students do typically share devices in the schools we're working with, so they normally will purchase like a class set of tablets and, you know, share them amongst the school. I think you had a question.
They don't have to have one individually, right? They rely on the school for them for the most part.
Yeah, it's really up to the school in terms of how many devices they have. Yeah. Do you want to, I think you had a question there. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool.
But my question is, and I'm thinking of India because that's where I'm from, and I've seen what this could possibly do for the kids over there. But there's so many cultural nuances that stop these kids from learning beyond a certain age.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, what is your end goal? Because if kids are dropping out of school because their parents need them to work, or girls can't go to school anymore because they're being raped, or having to have kids at the age of 14. What is the end goal? Because if they're not able to do what they need to do with the knowledge and the learning that they have, how is that translating into them, taking that forward? Like, we learn this at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, maybe if they're lucky. And then what?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's so many challenges to kids getting access to education. I mean, solution like ours, how do we think about that? And I think that's where, you know, we're trying to think of in the context of many other organizations working on these challenges. You know, Library for All is not the silver bullet to providing access to education, but we saw a gap. We're trying to fill that in the best way we can. Pratt & Books is doing an amazing job in India, and we're making sure that the content from their collection is available in our library. And, you know, really looking to be a resource for organizations that are at the front lines of those challenges that you're talking about. Because I don't think one organization can do that alone, so we have to work together.
Maybe I can ask the last question. So this is incredible, and you're doing incredible work. As you think about the people sitting here, what can we do to help support you and the future you're trying to build?
Yeah, well, my email address is up there, so definitely, you know, shoot us an email if you have ideas, thoughts for partnerships. Obviously, funding is a huge thing. If you believe in what we're doing, we have a monthly membership program. We love our members. They help us so much in terms of just staying afloat when in between those grants. But yeah, we're also thinking about how we can engage people here more in our mission. If you have connections at publishers as well, we're open to that. If you're a developer, we'd love your help with our tech platform. And just, you know, sign up for our newsletter, and we'll be sharing more about the volunteer opportunities that you have in the coming months, and just keep doing the awesome work that you're doing. Yes, thank you. All right, thanks.
So much. Thank you, everybody. Whoa, hello. So the conversation can absolutely continue. Please, everyone, stick around for a little more snacks and wine, and continue to have this conversation. But we want to thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much, Tanyella and Catherine and the rest of the Library for All team, and to Amy for a really great conversation. Okay, thanks so much.